When it comes to marking attempts or viewing different attempts in the grade centre, there's a few things that need to be noted. So as I mentioned in a previous video, there are several different kinds of columns that will show up in the grade centre. So some of your exam columns will be automatic marking columns, and these will be the columns that are attached to tests that only have questions like multiple choice or true and false. Questions that have answers that the system can mark themselves. So you shouldn't need to enter any grades into these columns because they'll be marked automatically by the system. If you want to view the attempt that goes with this, so this student was marked not satisfactory. You can see they made an attempt on this date. And you might want to review that attempt so you can help them to study for a second attempt. So if you want to do that, just enter into that attempt by clicking on that dated one, and then you'll get a view of all of the questions in that test and which ones they got right and wrong. So the question will be at the top, the answer that the student gave will be the next one, and then it'll give you what the correct answer should be. And the point score will be down the side so that you're able to guide the student with the questions that they got wrong. In the column here, which is the practical column in a trades or an assignment column in a business unit, this is a manual column where the trainer is responsible for entering a value to designate whether that student is satisfactory or not satisfactory. So to enter a grade into these, all you need to do is to click into the box there, and it'll turn into a little text box, and you can type your response in. So if they're satisfactory, you type the word satisfactory. If they're not satisfactory, you can type out not satisfactory, and then just hit your enter or return button to enter that grade. You are able to remove that again if you have made a mistake, wrong student or something like that. You just need to click back in there and you can delete it and re-enter. It'll ask you if you want to null the grade, press OK, and the grade will go back to 0. If you make a spelling mistake, it will tell you that you've entered an invalid symbol. It will only accept the entire word satisfactory and not satisfactory, and they're the recommendations that they're the words that we recommend that you use when you're entering in grades. We do understand though that if you've got a lot of grades to enter, that it might get a bit tiresome to be typing out those particular words all the time. So there is a second way that you can enter a score into a practical or an assignment column, and it's only these columns, not in exam columns, just in practical and assignment columns because of the way that they're set up. So a practical column, if we look at the grade information bar here, the practical column is designated as having 100 possible points, and that's just based on 100%. So if a student is competent or satisfactory in their practical, and that would be for the trades, all of their practicals, if there were multiple ones for a particular unit, you would wait until they'd completed all of them and then you'd put an overall grade in there. I suspect that you probably wouldn't be entering anything in here until they became satisfactory, but you know, if it's clear that they're not going to become satisfactory, that may have to be recorded here as well. So the other way that you can enter a grade in here is to use the numeric value of 80 for satisfactory. If you type in an 80 and hit enter, it'll enter the word satisfactory for you. And if the student is not satisfactory, you can enter the value of 50 and hit return, and that will give you a not satisfactory result. So that's just a little bit of a shortcut so that you don't have to type out those words, but just again stressing that this only applies to those columns which are practicals or assignments that have 100 possible points assigned to them. If you look at the exam column, if you were to enter 80 or 50, it wouldn't correlate to the points possible for this column because there's only 37 possible points for this exam. So that would sort of cause a bit of confusion in the system if you're entering 80 or 50 for those. And it's very important that you don't use any other numeric values other than that 80 and 50. And this is because in order to trigger the release of content, we need to make sure that the value doesn't get any greater than 80%. Otherwise, it may trigger some early release of content. So by entering the figure of 80 here as the highest value, that will stop the early release of material. So finally, if you've got an item that you need to mark, so this particular exam here is a short answer exam, so it wasn't able to be marked by the system automatically. So in order to mark this particular piece of assessment, you'll need to click on the item indicated by the green icon that designates it needs marking, and you can either go in through the view grade details or in through the attempt like we did previously. So if we go into the attempt option, we'll simply see a similar display than what we saw the previous time, but this time we get to see the given answer by the student, and this is just a nonsense answer that I entered to make an example. And then you can give individual feedback on each question and fill out how many points. So if this answer is right, you just enter the 1 point. If the answer was wrong, you would enter 0. And you would do that for all of the individual questions for this exam. At the bottom, you can enter overall feedback saying well done, great attempt, or not quite, come and see me and I'll give you some assistance with this exam. And at the bottom here, there's an item for grading notes. So if you need to make some sort of record about something that you've done for your own records, this doesn't appear to students. So it's a good way to put in some of those administrative notes so that they're kept within the exam. Once you've made all your changes and done all of your marking, you'd hit the submit button. I'm just going to exit out so that we don't mark that exam. The second way to go in and to view those grade details is to go in through the top here, which gives us an overall view of that attempt. So we can double check which student we're marking up the top here and that we're marking the correct item. It tells you how many points. Again, we don't want to use the exempt button, so we won't be sitting that there. And you have the option here to view the attempt. So hitting that button will take you to what we just saw previously to be able to mark that attempt. We've also got the attempt date and time here, and we're able to go in and either grade the attempt here, which is again just the same as what we did previously. We can clear the attempt here. So if the student has just gone into that exam by accident and not actually answered any questions, or if they've used up all their attempts at that exam, you're able to clear individual attempts here. And we shouldn't be using the ignore attempt at this stage, so please just ignore that one. So if we go in to view the attempt again, we can also use this test information here to see an overall summary of the data for this particular test. We're able to clear the attempt here, so if we're sitting in the test here and we realise that this student actually has just given all nonsense answers, and you've spoken to them and they said that they just wanted to have a look at the test, we can clear the attempt there.